Red Solstice 2 Survivors. Is it worth a buy? Let's read the words of the developer. Sequel to the bestseller Red Solstice. Plan your strategy and infiltrate a real-time tactical battlefield, alone or with up to 7 squad members. Can you demonstrate the combat prowess to survive and secure a future for humanity?
I first covered this game a few months ago when I was in the beta, I think it was, doing 8-player co-op. I did a preview of the game. I quite liked it, but there was some glaring issues with it. One of the main things being it was overly complicated and very vague as to what you actually had to do, and it was kind of riddled with it was kind of riddled with bugs, I would say. So it's fully released now. It's not even in early access. It's just bang released. And I've been playing it now for a few days and utterly confused, and people on the forums are utterly confused. There's questions pretty much about everything. Very unintuitive UI, horrible UI to be honest, and it's just overly complicated, this game, and doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. But I've actually now found the manual. It's buried in the archives. I mean, why don't they just have manual on the front page after you come into the game? Because as you can see here, it's quite an in-depth manual, which is great. It's called a tutorial. It should be a manual. There's still things missing, like for example, it doesn't tell you anything about your squad mates running out of ammo, and that if you loot a locker they get 2 primary and 1 secondary clips for every one that you get. There's big omissions from this, but it is a step forward from the actual beta. And so basically I've now got kind of mixed feelings about this game after playing it for a while. It's a single player campaign with co-op and also skirmish missions that's in co-op. Now the single player is your main story, which again is in the archives. There's no real story going on in your face. You have to go to the archives to find the actual story. But anyway, the actual single player's on a world map, and there's an infestation growing. The Stroll virus has taken over the planet, and you've got to beat it back by going to different areas where the virus is spreading and suppress it. And you do that with your squad of 4. Well, there's an 8 overall pool, but you can only have 4 AI on each mission with you, or you can take some friends in and host a co-op mission. I'll talk a little bit about the gameplay, and then I'll talk a bit about how co-op differs from single player and skirmish. So the actual missions, you dropped onto a planet. You get to see the kind of waves that's going to be coming from the enemy before you drop, which is really handy, because you might get, 15 waves coming, and wave 13 and 14 or 10 and 12 might be really nasty waves. So as you're playing through the actual game on your mission, you see at the top of your screen what wave you're on and how long's left of that wave before the next wave kicks in. So you kind of can prepare for when the big nasty waves come, providing of course you remember what number them waves are. And it's all nice. I like that. And what makes it even more fruity, guys, is that you can extract pretty much early doors if you want. You don't have to complete all objectives before you extract. You might have a little zone marked on the map for extraction, and it's up to you. And if you're playing with 8 other players, it's up to them as well whether they want to extract. And many a game I've played, a couple of guys have extracted. Even I have. I've been pussyfied and I've extracted as well, because I've just thought, hang on a minute, I'm getting a bit low on ammo. There's some big nasty waves coming. I'm not that bothered about getting all them objectives. I've got a good bit of XP. I've shot a lot of shit up. I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. And so you'll see guys just naffing off and taking the zip line up and off. Well, it's not a zip line, but you know what I mean. And it's all fun. And then you can watch the other players die if they were too greedy, or if you were one of them, you're fighting for your life. And it's it's damn exciting, and it's really good fun, guys. It really is. I've had some fantastic fun playing this game. The only thing is the missions do get a bit repetitive. There's not a lot of different ones on. The involve like rescuing people, escorting people, escorting people, and finding things and rescuing people and escorting people, and bashing down doors and opening buildings, sealing doors, and closing them and locking them so the enemy can't get in till they bash it down. going to lockers. There's lockers all over the place, basic ones to really good quality ones where you can get bits of kit and, more importantly, ammunition, which you can easily run out of if you're not careful in this game. You can drop stuff for your teammates, not your AI teammates, but your co-op teammates. And basically, the mission's success pretty much depends on the classes of soldiers that come in. You've got your heavy class, your sniper class, your recon class, your assault classes, your support classes, and you need a good sprinkling of each in your missions so that you can rely. Like, for example, the sniper is great, absolutely great, as is the heavy when you're trying to hold a situation down where you have a timer. You might be told to just halt there for maybe a minute and a half while waves of enemies come, and the sniper can take out the big nasty guys. The heavy can suppress huge waves of mobs, destroying all the low level ones and suppressing the big heavy mobs, and the mobs do get bigger and bigger. I haven't even encountered half of them yet. In fact, I haven't even encountered a quarter of them yet. So the missions themselves are exciting, but the progression is utterly confusing. For example, in single player you will research things by going to each different area of your map and clicking on the time pass button to quickly speed through your research, and you have access to a few things that you can research. But when you go into co-op, if you aren't the host, you don't have access to any of that. You can't choose what you're going to research. Instead, you get points to spend, so like a perk tree. And the perk tree is extensive, as you can see. There's like shit tons of stuff that you can put stuff in. Unfortunately, it's broken. For example, in single player, I unlocked the heavy, which is what I like playing the most. I then went into co-op. There it was, me heavy. I played the heavy in a couple of missions, put a few more perk points in, had to go out, so shut my game down, saved it of course, shut my game down, came back. My progress was still exactly where it was in the single player, but I went straight into co-op because I prefer that to the single player, and my heavy was no longer available. I could only select the basic medic or assault. I couldn't understand why, so I went back into single player, played a few more missions, and then the heavy suddenly appears back in co-op. Okay, played a few more co-op missions, went to bed, got up today, thought I'll have a couple of more co-op games. Heavy's gone. So I did a couple of single player missions. Oh, then it's back again. It's just, yeah. There's quite a few bugs in this game. There's been a few patches, one big patch and I think a hotfix since the game released. A lot of the crashes have now been fixed. The invisible desyncing walls have pretty much been fixed, but there are other bugs still prevalent in the game, which is a bit of a shame because it is a good game. It's just kind of ruined by lack of information, unintuitive, poor UI, it has to be said, and some bugs in the game. One of the worst bugs is loading in, hearing you dying, because you're getting, if the game's already on, the players might be away from the start area, they might be well into the map, you spawn in the start zone, if you like, of where all the other players will have spawned, but you've still got your loading screen on, but your player's in the game, and there's some mobs come past, so oh, there's a guy, we'll eat his face off, and they're killing you, and you can hear yourself dying while you're on the bloody loading screen. By the time you get into the loading screen, depending on how much armor you've got, you could be dead. Not good enough. That should never ever happen. It's things like that that need fixing in this game, and that's going to be reflected in the score of this, because if your game isn't tested fully and fixed, it shouldn't be in full release. That's what early access is for, and this has skipped early access and gone straight into the I'm ready, play tested, and it's all good, and it isn't, and a lot of people have refunded, and it's probably cost them a lot of money doing that. So there's a word of warning for any other developers out there: test your game thoroughly, make sure you've got a manual that players can understand, make sure it's easily available, and common sense, really. That all comes under common sense for me. So that leaves us with where the game is now. There's not a huge amount of games up there in co-op, but it is fun in co-op. I'm having a blast in co-op, I really am. I'm not too invested in the single player. It's a bit easy. It's not really for me, the single player. The co-op is where it's at. Now, I thought it would be the other way around when I previewed this. I thought I wouldn't like the co-op. I would prefer the single player, but nah, I absolutely love the co-op. It's great. Single player, nah, not so great, to be honest. Get the bugs ironed out, good game on your hands. But as it stands now, it's buggy, frustrating, and the fucking manual's buried. It's buried, guys. It should be on the front. It should be there. Look, there's so much information I've got from this manual that I didn't know. And I had no idea that it would be under a heading called Archives. Archives. Archives sounds like a dusty, boring library for old people who are covered in dust themselves. And they just go, check the archive, the archive. No, manual, game manual. What the hell? Archives. One thing I better mention before I end is the control system is not to everyone's taste. It isn't with SAD. It looks like you control it with SAD, but you actually control it like an RTS, right click, move, and with SAD actually moves the camera. Now personally, that's fine. I get on, no problem with it. I can use it fine. I would of course like to have the option to use WSAD because I might prefer WSAD. Just moving your guy around and have the camera either lock on or free the camera. And a lot of people are complaining that you can't have that. So I just thought I'd mention that. So there you go, guys. That's Red Solstice 2. It's good when it works, but it's overly complicated and I won't mention the manual anymore.